afternoon to everyone. It's wonderful to see you. I'd like to thank Councilperson Scipio for joining us as well this afternoon. So let us get started. I believe Ms. Harlan, could you call the roll?
Sure. Chairperson Phil.
Present. Ms. Duncan, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay. Chair Villa-Gomez.
Present.
Vice Chair Penn.
You're muted, Jane. Present.
Ms. Dark.
Present.
Mr. Dara. Mr. Fulton. Ms. Johnson should be joining us shortly. Mr. Scales. Ms. Ms. Williams should also be joining us shortly, and Ms. Wilson.
Present.
Right, I don't believe we have a quorum, so we can't approve the minutes yet, but do we want to discuss them? Are there any comments, suggestions for revision? Okay, we'll wait and approve the minutes later. So I'd like to move on to a few updates. So the first is the Undesigned Red Line. It will be shutting down at the public library in a few weeks. I've been in discussion with Mr. Charlie Gardner about various places it could move. And of course, we don't need to approve that, but it is our hope that the exhibition will remain and then remain here in town. There will be a virtual online presence, but we hope that we can have it set up somewhere else in the community that would be very accessible to everyone. And I know that some of us have discussed early on when the exhibit actually opened, we discussed possibly bringing groups together for our subcommittees to collect memorabilia and documents and oral histories. So hopefully this will happen sometime in the early January, February. So I will keep you posted on that. But we did have a wonderful workshop a few weeks ago that Braden led, and I think we had great community turnout. So that was a success, and I think it helped to create a platform for some upcoming discussions on racism, dismantling racism. So it's wonderful that our committee supported and sponsored the exhibition. So secondly, I'd like to move on with an update about the Reverend Dr. Chancellor Kenneth R. Williams project. We are still working on this project. It's turned into the most amazing and inspiring project for me and the history interns. And Mr. Flynn has continued to help the interns. So they're working through some boxes of artifacts and letters that have not been digitized. So it's just been a wonderful project, but we will have to postpone the submission of the application until next year, because we do need to vote on where the marker should be placed. And given that there are legal implications for where the marker goes, we really do have to decide. So I wanted to have a discussion, just an initiated discussion for the committee. And hopefully we can vote on a location, but I have a few recommendations. And the one that I think would be best would would be to place the marker in the neighborhood in front of Dr. Williams' home, because that will then bring people to the neighborhood. It will give visibility to our neighborhood, to his neighborhood. And I think that's very important. I've also been told that the property remains in the family. And so legally, it would not be a problem to get the permission to put the marker there. The other possibilities would be the campus, the actual campus at WSSU in front of the auditorium named after him, or possibly in front of the auditorium on the MLK side, also in front of City Hall, or somewhere around the old Reynolds factory, you know, given his connection with the union. So, I just want to open up discussion and see what people's ideas are on this.
I just had a
Gomez, I'm sorry, Ms. Linda. I was just going to say that you do have a quorum now, so if you do need to vote on something, you can do so.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wanda.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just had a question. I don't remember, Chair Villagomez, do you know the name of the street where his home is? Or was?
I can't recall, but Council Member Scipio, could you help me on this one?
Was it Rich Avenue? It was Rich Avenue, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, one of the things is that his home where most people knew him to live is on Rich Avenue, and that's the one that's still in the family. But the actual house that he was living in when he won the election is on Cameron Avenue.
Okay.
It was a smaller house, and then they built the house on Ridge. So I think it might be better at the house that most people knew he lived in, which is the one on Ridge.
And both of those are in very close proximity to each other.
Yeah, they're around the corner from each other. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Any thoughts? Any suggestions?
And this and that, in terms of access and visibility, I was just thinking Winston-Salem State. I realized, and maybe, you know, I'm open to either one, but I think that more people would see it and read about it if, you know, otherwise, if even those who maybe not even from here, people who are not from here probably would not go looking for it unless would this be part of a directory? We have, I know there are landmarks that are, you know, done by the county and city, but if it wasn't part of a directory, it would not probably get the visibility that it would on the campus.
Thank you, Ms. Annette. That is a consideration. And I think as a committee, what we need to think about is who we want our audience to be. So within our neighborhood, this would remind everyone in the neighborhood of the accomplishments and what Dr. Williams did on behalf of all African Americans and everyone in Winston-Salem. If we have it on the campus, then it would be our students and whomever would visit. So we really want to think about who our target audience is. But I think because our neighborhood fellow community members need an uplift and need to be reminded of what has been accomplished through the years from leaders within our community. And then also given the legal implications, I would still lean toward the neighborhood, but again, it's not what I think, it's what the wish of the committee is.
And along those lines, Annette, I hadn't even thought about the visibility. You have a great point. I think I do like the idea of the neighborhood, as you said, Chair Villagomez, because the neighborhood certainly could use an uplift. But thinking about that, Rich Avenue is more of a kind of like a hidden little gem. So if that's the case, maybe it should be on Cameron Avenue at the other house. And then there are also other very important locations on Cameron Avenue in that same area. And the marker could indicate that this was a second house or whatever, and point out that the original home was, or a later home was on Rich Avenue as well. But yeah, I think probably the neighborhood would benefit more, probably.
In terms of the marker itself, are we limited to the number of words and characters like we are when we do the city, the signs that are done by the city? And my other thing, are there ever posted signs that direct people to where signs are? Like, you know, maybe you may see a sign at the corner of an intersection that points that a building is close by. I mean, would there be anything maybe to direct people to its location if it were on Rich? I see it. If we're going to put it at one of the houses, I guess I just identify with Rich Avenue. But again, would there be any other options for us directing people to this sign?
That's a great question, Ms. Annette. I could follow up with Ms. Angela Thorpe, who oversees this through the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission. So I could ask her about that. But you are correct. There is a limit in terms of the words. Now, when we submit the application, we'll have to put what we would like, what we are suggesting for the marker. So now that we have more time, the application portal doesn't open back up until February of next year. So I think it would be important to come back with the text, and then as a committee, we can revise the text for the marker together. But my students and I will draft a first draft, and then we can come back together and think about what is best to stress. And I can send the committee, or I can bring next month the number of words were allowed.
And I think because it's a state preservation project, I'm sure there will be something on the state's website or some kind of directory. Okay. And that's why I think it would be great to have it go into the neighborhood, either Cameron or Rich, because that puts that area on a state level. So I'm sure there will be something directing people to where these historic places are.
That's correct, Ms. Linda. There's a link, and I think every single marker has a digital presence. And I'm thinking I could bring next month, I could bring examples of the wording of some of the markers that could be helpful to us. So I'll make sure to do that next month.
And that put it on the corner where Atkins High School is.
No, I think there's one on the one at Atkins. There's one that's already there.
Actually, I'm happy to say it is the North Carolina Civil Rights Trail. So the state would have a mapping of how to get to those sites. And we also have on Rich Avenue a historic marker for the 5 Royals, which is at the corner of Rich and 12th Street. So you try to put the marker close to wherever the entities that you're honoring lived or work, or what made good sense. So I think it's just a great project. And I know at some point I have a list of, and I'm sorry, Chairman Villa-Gomez, I bet you're going to ask for recommendations, but I do have a list of other people and places that I hope the committee will consider applying for. The good thing about this Civil Rights Trail marker, we can apply for a marker, an unlimited number of people or places. They choose, but we could submit many applications because it's new and because our history is very rich. And so it's just, unfortunately, it's a lot of research and documentation. But there are a lot of places that we probably can think about that should be on a civil rights trail. One of the places that the people at the state had asked, thought would be really great was Winston-Salem Golf Course for the Civil Rights Trail, but we already are pursuing a National Register designation. We can do both, but that was also another place. So we, as a committee, I'd like for you to think about all of the people and places that were important in this city for the civil rights movement and effort. So there, double AAA building is still existing. I heard Clark Brown was the one who was the kingpin to a lot of things that went on. He was also one of the first African Americans on the city of Winston-Salem boards and commissions very early on. We've got a lot of, you guys know, at least some of you know the history of who made a big dent that didn't get recognized. And so Reverend Macmillan was very instrumental with the NAACP. And so there are others, but it takes research, and some of them weren't documented. So we'll have to do a lot of oral histories to help document that. But I'm off for now. I'm not talking no more yet. I'm gonna let y'all have your committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Sibyl. That is so helpful. And I actually think this has just been so wonderful because it's given us a fence post or anchor, if you will. And it's helped me and my students to figure out how to start the research for this. And I think it then can carry over into helping each of the subcommittees. And so I know that you all know many people that we should commemorate, many people and many places. So I think we can see this as a nice ongoing project to continue to think about who and where we should put markers or recommend markers for the Civil Rights Trail. And I will make sure that I send the whole committee the link to the Civil Rights Trail so you can see the digital presence. So if we are ready to vote, that would be great. If someone could make a motion. If not, we can table this discussion and think about it more. And circle back around next month.
Chair Villa-Gomez, I actually have a question as it relates to the site selection. My understanding is for the Civil Rights Trail Marker Program, and what is AAHI's involvement? Are they with respect to the grant application, or I'm sorry, the application for the marker? Because this may not be something that you need to vote on.
Well, so last month, the committee supported this application formally. And so I wouldn't want to make a judgment on my own. I believe the committee should definitely decide where. I don't know the legalities of it, but ethically, I think this should be something the committee decides together.
Okay, so I'm clear. So the committee voted to support the application, but what entity is the applicant? So the applicant is the North Carolina Heritage
commission that oversees the North Carolina Civil Rights Trail. So the director, Ms. Angela Thorpe, and others who are part of the state commission review the applications. And I believe that they select 20 markers per year, up to 20, no matter what the submission number is. So Ms. Keisha, I can actually send you the link so you can look at that if you're interested in seeing just from the official angles how that works. But there is, in the application packet, you have to provide a letter from whoever, whatever individual or whatever institution or business owns the property. So the marker can't be approved until that legal permission is given. And so that is one reason I wanted to bring the whole committee into this conversation, because once we decide where we want to put it, then that moves me into making those requests for the legal permission.
Okay, so just to kind of back up, so is AAHI isn't submitting the application to the program, correct?
Well, yes, we are doing it. I am doing it with my interns on behalf of our committee. So we're preparing it on behalf of the whole committee. Because there is a great amount of research involved in writing. You have to provide primary evidence, scholarly evidence. There's a substantial essay that has to be written. There has to be a letter of support from an official. So, for instance, my department chair, Dr. Denise Nation, could write the letter. I've looked closely at the model application that is recommended, and I can send that to you so you can see everything that needs to go in there.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because AAHI, the committee, is a commission of the city of Winston-Salem. So if there is an application being submitted anywhere, it would be by the city of Winston-Salem, and that would require council involvement. So that's why I'm asking these questions, and I want to be clear, because if that is the direction that you would be taking, you would be voting to submit this to council for consideration, and council would ultimately vote up or down, if I'm understanding you correctly. And so that's why I'm asking these questions, because it may be that whatever is voted upon here isn't what you need in order to get you to get permission to submit the application. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding what the program requirements are and what entity is applying for this marker, so that I'm able to kind of push it in the right direction, so to speak, with respect to who needs to approve it.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, maybe we should table the vote until we can work out some of these things. I can submit it. Any citizen can submit it. The one that is the model application was submitted by a group of UNCG history professors, and it was for the polio hospital in Greensboro. And so, I could submit it as a citizen along with my students. So, but of course, we wanted AAHIC to get the permission for, or to get the recognition for this. So this was a way to celebrate what we're trying to do and align with other groups that are aiming to do the same thing we're aiming to do, which is to celebrate African American history and people and life. And so, and Ms. Wanda and Councilperson Scipio and I have met extensively with Ms. Thorpe. So it is a learning experience, a learning curve, trying to figure out how to maneuver through all of this correctly. So I will send you that information, and maybe we can talk offline and figure out the right thing to do. But I would like to be able to, if possible, submit it on behalf of AAHIC again to bring attention to our what we are doing.
Okay. Yeah, I see Rhonda. I see the emails coming in. Has emailed the application packet, so I'll take a look at that and then follow up as needed.
Yes, and Keisha, just to let you know, the most recent conversation I had with Chair Villa-Gomez, just full transparency about this, was in reference to letter of support, that type of thing. And so that is something that we recently discussed, and I did not suggest to her that that would be a path that we should pursue, because there are lots of moving parts with this. And so just in an abundance of caution, we did not want to look like we had any kind of self-interest or anything like that with something that we're supporting as AAHI. And then at the same time, we're going to write a letter of support. And I mean, it's just, there are lots of moving parts. And so I am very glad that you raised the questions and issues that you did today, because we do want this to be a very clean and transparent process. Not sure if it's appropriate, to proceed in one vein versus another, but we definitely do value and need and appreciate your feedback.
Oh, absolutely. And as I said, I'm certainly not poo-pooing it down. I just want to make sure that I understood what the process was and who the entities were, because I would hate for you to vote to do something and then only to find out that it can't be done because it wasn't done in the right manner. So
exactly.
I will certainly take a look at all of it, and then we can follow up as necessary, because ultimately, whatever I can do to help facilitate it, I am more than willing to do.
And we know that, and we thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. I want to say thank you too for keeping us clear. And sometimes it may be more expedient for another entity to submit it than going through the council, though it may be also most appropriate and really the thing that the committee it was assigned to do, which was melding our African-American history with the history of the city. So there might be some that need to go to the council just so they know that we're doing it and fulfilling the mission of the committee. But for expediency to meet a deadline, like in February, if we know we got to go to the council, we've got to be on certain things by a certain time, and also allow for people to have questions and to delay it, and we miss the deadline. So I think all of that needs to be discussed in terms of what entity should submit it. But the thing I like about the Civil Rights Trail application, it can come from any person. It doesn't have to come from an institution. But I also know that if it comes from an entity or an institution, it probably gives it a little more credibility too. So thank you. Thank you, Keisha, for always being on top and keeping us right on, doing the right thing the right way. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Keisha. And I can actually forward either Wanda or I can forward our correspondence so you can see what my concerns were when I was trying to finish the application last week. So
I've done that, Chair Villa-Gomez. She has everything now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wanda.
Welcome.
Well, I have one more thing to discuss. And so I have mentioned over the last few months that I will be teaching an urban history course in the spring. So it's in the books. Students are already enrolling. And I would like to create a service learning project. I will be doing that to have my students help me at least with my work, but I was hoping we could vote together and approve this at the committee level. And I was thinking a lot about this over the last few days, and I want to be clear that I would not try to impose anything on anyone in the committee. So I would want to make my students and I available to help each subcommittee chair, or to work on maybe one project that the whole committee would want us to focus upon, because I will have 35 students. And so there are lots of ways that we could go with this. And I'm not really sure if we need the vote, but I wanted to open up discussion for the vote and then think about how this service learning project could truly benefit our mission. So I guess the question is, do we want to vote on this today? And if not, that's okay. We can circle back around next month. And if we don't really need to vote on this, then that's okay too. Then we can continue to think about over the next month what would be viable projects that could really support our mission and possibly support what each of you want to do with your subcommittees.
Are we saying that the committee just needs to determine if we want to work with your service learning students? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can certainly agree with that. I don't know if we need to vote on it or not. Can Ms. Wanda or Councilwoman Scipio, can you give us some direction on that? Do we really need to vote on that? We just have some students available and we will utilize them for the research that's needed for our committee.
I mean, from a procedural standpoint, I don't think that a vote would be necessary, because they would be just like any other volunteer group,
right,
who would want to assist the committee in wherever their efforts and skills and talents would better line up with what it was that the committee was trying to do. So I don't think that there's any need for a formal vote on that point.
Thank you, Keisha. So do we want to speak a little bit about ways that the service learning project could be designed to really support each of you and to support us collectively as a committee?
Well, just for the protection of time, I would say we could probably email you directly with ideas for each of our individual subcommittees, but perhaps all of us on the committee needs to say yes or no, we think that's a good idea, that we can utilize these student services. I'd just like to make sure that everybody is in agreement. And then we can get into the details at a future time after emailing you what or how we think the students could help us individually.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Ms. Linda. And I believe I might have mentioned a few months ago that we could possibly have the students work on research for writing that history that came out of the resolution from last April, which would speak about the destruction of Black neighborhoods and businesses from the different, from Business 40 and 52, et cetera. And so that, because we have been charged with that, writing that history, which is, it will obviously can involve the oral histories we're trying to collect, as well as documents, but we have a lot of evidence in place already for that. And So that could be one thing that I would give the students to do for research if that is a priority of our committee. So I just want to put that out there as, one possible bigger project for the students. But I'll definitely send out an email and ask everyone to send me ideas, and then next month we can go through that. So thank you for that suggestion. And any other thoughts or suggestions? Okay, thank you. I think we could circle back around to approve our October minutes. Could someone move to approve?
It's Annette Wilson. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the October meeting.
Could someone please second?
I second it.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan, could you take the
Sure.
call on
Chair Villa-Gomez,
that? Aye.
Vice Chair Penn,
Aye.
Ms. Stark,
Approve.
Mr. Darrah,
Can't hear you. He's saying yes.
and Ms. Wilson.
Yes, approved.
And thank you. Our October minutes are approved. And I believe we can move on beyond my updates. Thank you, everyone.
Chair Villa-Gomez, did you say my name?
Oh, I just said we could move beyond, and I'm just looking at the agenda now. So Mr. Paris, I believe, is he still with us?
It looks that way, yes. Devin? Okay.
There's a lag on my side whenever I try to put on the mic on or anything, so. Yeah. So thanks a lot for having me today. So my name is Devin Paris, and I'm calling from Halifax, Nova Scotia, up in Canada. So we're just a couple kilometers east of Maine, all up here. So I've just been hired recently to work with the Halifax Regional Municipality on creating a cultural heritage project for African Nova Scotians in the city. So a little bit of a backstory. When people think of Black Canadian history, it's often, people usually just think of like the Underground Railroad and kind of Caribbean and African immigration that came in the last 30 years to Toronto. And, oh, is my volume not all the way up here? Is that better? All right, perfect. So yeah, people usually think of kind of the ways of immigration in Toronto and Montreal and the Underground Railroad and that kind of stuff. But Nova Scotia has a pretty rich Black heritage that's extended from the 1600s onward. So most families in Nova Scotia can trace their lineage back to a few instances. So we had slavery up in Nova Scotia in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. We had the Black Loyalists who migrated up here at the end of the Revolutionary War, exiled Jamaican Maroons, refugees of the War of 1812, and Caribbean coal miners that came in the late 19th and early 20th century. So a lot of families in Nova Scotia that are African Nova Scotian can trace their family heritage back to before even Canada was a country. So it's been 200 plus years of Black history up here, which not a lot of people know about in Canada. Historically, Nova Scotia has been the center of Afro-Canadian culture and has been visited by Black cultural icons like Kwame Ture and Marcus Garvey, Muhammad Ali, and a lot of people who have been really big for Black movements all over the world. With all this Black history, the city of Halifax hasn't really done a very good job of highlighting that Black history in the city. A lot of our heritage sites and a lot of our heritage tours have been pretty, have really just highlighted kind of the more colonial history of the white settlers who came here and haven't really done too much to really dig into that rich Black history that we have in Nova Scotia. So I've just got hired here out of school to administer a project that looks to establish tours, establish more heritage registrations for famous Black properties and that kind of thing. So Wanda was very kind enough to allow me to sit on your meeting. And in my research, Winston-Salem looks like they have a really interesting project going along here that's been developed quite nicely. So I'm excited to be here and to learn a little bit. So I just have a couple questions for how you guys have kind of developed this going forward. Wanda mentioned that North Carolina, the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission, Digital North Carolina, and Winston-Salem State University have been crucial partners for the project. So in what capacity have they helped develop the African American Heritage Initiative?
Well, Devin, actually, the AAHI was developed as the result of a vision and concept that was conceived by Councilmember Annette Scipio, who was on the call today. And so that's really how it started and how it was created here with city government. In terms of what the state has done to help develop it, I can't think of anything particular to reference. Right now, we are trying to work potentially with the state in various capacities, as you heard the discussion about the marker program and things of that nature. We're exploring different partnerships with the state. And Councilmember Scipio, Chair Villagomez, and others, I would certainly invite you to jump in to share and expound upon that. But that's what I would think to tell you just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Did I forget anything, you all?
No.
So limited, very limited, Devin. We're still trying to explore.
Right, yeah. So it's still kind of in the early stages and stuff, yeah.
Right.
That's cool. Right. So
And
what
Devin,
oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say my family took a cruise up to Halifax a couple of years back, and I didn't have the time I wanted, but we did get out to see some of the local I'm going to say African American, and that's not true. Some of the local African heritage locations. I didn't have time to see as much as I wanted, but there is a rich history. And I think it really does need to be publicized and advertised more, because it is very amazing. And I mean, I didn't realize a lot of stuff. I knew about the Underground Railroad, but I did not realize all of the African heritage settlements that are there today. And we could not get across. I can't remember whether it was a lake or a river. We couldn't get over there. We had to stay in Halifax. And there's a whole African heritage neighborhood. And so I hope to get back up there sometime.
Yeah, we have a lot of communities like that around Halifax. I think there's like 7 historically Black rural communities out here. And I'm guessing that was across the harbor for you guys. So you guys were able to go to the Black Cultural Center and all that stuff.
Right,
a lot of amazing stuff there, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. No, Halifax has a really, really interesting history. So I'm excited to kind of be back here and to learn a little bit more about it with this job. What kind of commemoration do you guys have planned? Like, do you have markers, tours, kind of archives that you're looking to establish going forward? Or with this project?
Well, Devin, one of the things that has been part of our mission from the beginning, once our city board members approved the project, was to have a digitized collection of oral histories and documents and photos. And so that really is one of the reasons Winston-Salem State became involved. So fortunately, Councilperson Scipio, myself, and Mr. Tom Flynn were on a number of public history projects, and we really developed great rapport, and we were collaboratively working together. And so Mr. Flynn was brought in because he is WSSU's archivist, but he has an incredible reputation across our our whole city as well as the state for understanding sort of the technical side of digitization and archival work, but also the right way, the best practices for oral history. And so in many ways, that's why WSSU came on board. And of course, we're very, very proud and happy to be part of the project. So I would recommend that you go out there and try to find community partners who've been involved in public history projects that really reach out to the community, but also might have some kind of a digital component, and then make friends with all the great archivists in your city.
Yeah, that's very good advice. We have a couple of universities in the city that are have some professors that are interested in maybe doing something like that. So I think that's definitely going to be a big part of this project here. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your project, and we're delighted that you're taking the lead up in Canada on something like this. It's so important. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Devin.
So Ms. Wanda, will you give us the director's report?
Certainly. I really don't have a lot to share. We just heard from Mr. Devin Paris, which was awesome. I learned a lot just speaking with him. He called me and started telling me about what he was working on, and it was just amazing to me. And so I thought that it would be really insightful for this particular group to hear about the work that's being done in Canada, and the fact that Devin came across our information and contacted us. That was even more exciting to me, because it shows that we really are hopefully on the cutting edge of trying to do this type of work, at least from a municipality perspective. And so I think it just speaks volumes to what you all are doing and accomplishing through AAHI. So major kudos, Councilmember Scipio, for your vision, and Chair Villa-Gomez for your leadership. I think it's a good thing. In terms of, there was one thing I was going to touch on, but I think Keisha had to leave the call. But anyway, I know that another thing that this group is charged with is with input or with some narrative ideas in terms of reparations. We've talked about this here and there, but that's something that I just kind of want to keep on your radar screen, because it is something that is being asked out in the community. And I know that there are at least one or two groups who are exploring reparations in the near future with like some type of community discussion or forum. So just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of the fact that in terms of the municipality's perspective, this particular group would be asked to help to create a narrative to have on the website that really focuses on what reparations could look like and mean for our local community. And so, Councilmember Scipio, I don't want to talk out of turn, but was there anything else that I needed to say, or anything that needed to be added to what the expectations would be for this group? Okay.
I think that we might need to review the document. I think it was a resolution that it was in a resolution. So at some point we need to review that, because there was no real directives given to the group as to what and how and that kind of thing. But I think that to be proactive, perhaps at the next meeting, there might be some time set aside for some real discussion around that, because as I recall, we have the ability to sort of shape it ourselves.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking as well. Thank you.
I believe back in July, I sent out the quote from the resolution and then some literature about how we define reparative justice on a number of official levels. And then I think I also sent a few articles for us to think about. So I could resend that just to help us think about what we want to discuss on this matter next month. And again, this might be what for the service learning project, I think this is something that would be really manageable for the students. So I think, Ms. Wanda, you're giving me some good thoughts about what to do with the students. So thank you for bringing this back up.
You're welcome, Chair Villa-Gomez, no problem. And that's it for my updates. Just wanted to mention that to you.
Thank you. So do we have updates from our city staff?
Yes. Jackie, did you want to update everyone about what you and I were working on this morning, just as an FYI for them?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes.
For some reason, my video quit showing. Let me see if I can get it started.
Okay.
Well, that'll be okay if it don't. So we have, and Wanda informed me that we have deposited the funds from the $10,000 grant that we received. And she provided me with a list of items that we would like to purchase for scanning and collecting different documents and auditory and visual histories from our public. So I began the process this morning. I forwarded that out to our endpoint device team so that they can start getting the quotes and go through the official purchasing process regarding those items. They said it could take 2 to 3 weeks or so to get all that done with the quotes and all the stuff that they've got to do. Of course, it's got to go through the BIA office and make sure that all the quotes are legitimate, and we've got to make sure that we're going with the cheapest quote for each of the items. Some of them we have standing quotes for that we use, like the laptops and stuff that we use routinely, that we have certain, I guess, systems already in place with those, but other items are unique. So that'll take a little bit of time. But once we have that done, we'll begin purchasing those items. I will tell everybody that this is really, really exciting, but we are seeing effects of the supply chain issues currently being seen all over the nation. So it may take us a little bit longer than normal to receive some of these items. So there'll be more to come on that as we learn more and get some idea of when some of these items will begin.
Thanks so much, Jackie. And thank you to you and your team for working with Jamie from my staff to make sure that we are getting the equipment as expeditiously as we can, because we do want to make sure that we use this equipment and that we're able to capture the oral histories and scan the documents and do all the other exciting things that we know AAHI is ready to do. So I really thank you for that. Also, I just wanted to check in with anyone else from our internal AAHI team for any updates. And Tom, I know that you were working with Keisha maybe in some capacity. Keisha had to leave for a 3 o'clock that she had, but maybe you were working with her, Tom Flynn, if you were working with her on the contract.
Yeah, so a draft of the kind of agreement between WSSU and the city was sent to our legal department. They asked that we look it over and make any comments. I sent it up the chain here to the director of the library as well as the provost, and I'm just waiting for feedback from them. I don't know who in the end would sign the agreement. My guess is it would be the chancellor, but I'm just waiting to hear so that if they have any feedback, we can send it back to the city so they can make any changes. I had asked one question, one line of it was about funding. And I just asked if grants, how those would be handled, and Keisha gave me a great answer. So I didn't, but I'm not smart enough to know much. That's why I set up the food chain. So hopefully I hear back and then we can move forward from there.
Thank you, Tom. Greatly appreciate that. I don't think we have any other city staff updates, but if anyone from city staff does have an update that maybe I've forgotten about, please, feel free to jump in.
Hey, Wanda, it's Tom here. Just good afternoon. Just want to qualify one thing Jackie said. She said that we will get quotes for the endpoint devices and go with the lowest quotes. That's not necessarily always true. If we have a quote for a $200 quote for a device from MWBE in Winston-Salem, and we get a quote for $190 out of Charlotte, we're going with the Winston-Salem. So I want to make sure you all realize we do give preference to local and MWBE providers, and we get this process. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, thank you, Tom, for clarifying.
Yes, thank you. And so Chair Villa-Gomez, I think that concludes the city staff updates.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, for our next meeting, we will be meeting on Wednesday, December 1st. So we have time for maybe 1 2-minute memory, if anyone wants to share one.
Chair Villa-Gomez, while we're waiting, did we skip an agenda item?
I don't believe so.
After city staff updates?
And then it was Winston-Salem Foundation, the redlining project. So I was assuming that it was the equipment grant, but is there anything else related to redlining that we should share?
I was going to ask, because I don't have it in front of me, does anyone happen to know when the exhibition ends at the library? And for how long this will be available, the actual exhibit itself?
November 14th is
Okay.
when it leaves.
That's when it leaves the library.
Right.
And apparently, according to Braden and Charlie, it will remain here in storage, and that's why we're exploring various options for putting it back up again early next year, somewhere that will be accessible to the whole community.
Right, and I was going to say, Chair Villa-Gomez, that the Human Relations DEI department would be interested in exploring a way to have it displayed somewhere, whether it's at City Hall or someplace else. And it would be a good lead into Fair Housing Month, which is a national recognition of Fair Housing Month in April. And so, but that's kind of late, that's not until April, but we could have it as a lead into that, or it may be something that would be good for Black History Month in February. Because there could be a tie into Black History Month. So just wanted to put that out there, that we could certainly think about it either for Black History Month or Fair Housing Month. But we just need to kind of think about how that would look and where it could be and that type of thing.
Well, that is excellent. And I know I've gotten suggestions. For instance, we could invite at some point the Realtor Association and really educate them on the history of our community. And I know that many of us would like to use the exhibit wherever the new exhibit would go up, or wherever the exhibit would be housed. Then we could organize our community committee meetings in that space. So I think that's just wonderful to align it with what you've suggested. So wonderful news. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure. And Chair Villagomez, I think Frank Elliott had his hand up to say something.
Oh,
I do. And what I'd like to say is that we could take a given photograph or a given part of that exhibit and serialize that during Fair Housing Month on our social channels.
Wow. That would be awesome.
Well, it'd be great because, a whole lot more people are going to see it. We have 50,000 people on it who subscribe to our Facebook page. So that could be good.
And Mr. Frank, there is, according to Charlie, there is already a digital website. So I don't know if the city could link up with the one that is there. It's my understanding that for every city and place where the exhibit has gone nationally, then there's a permanent digital exhibition or digital display. I know that according to Braden and Charlie, some of the interviews that were given, like Annette Wilson gave an interview, and I believe those are all posted. And then of course the wonderful opening address that Ms. Wanda gave, I believe that's up as well, but I haven't had a chance to take a look at that, but I can certainly later this afternoon send that link to you and everyone.
Please do. I'll take a look at it and see just, what we could pull out of there that would translate for social.
Thank you so much. Are there any other action items that you would like to discuss before we adjourn? Well, I believe we could adjourn. So again, I wanted to thank our guests for joining us, and thank you all for your suggestions and feedback and participation and support of our wonderful project. So take very good care. I look forward to seeing you. I'm already excited about our December meeting. And please, again, if I can support each of you in what you're doing with your subcommittee, please reach out to me. You have my number and you have my email. I am here for you. So could we please have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Jane. A second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Annette. And Ms. Duncan, could you call for the vote?
Chair Villagomez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Penn,
Aye.
Mr. Dura, and Ms. Wilson.
Aye.
And actually, you all lost someone, so you really don't have a quorum, and you don't have to, you don't have to vote to adjourn anyway, so it really is, it's okay. But one thing I wanted to just extend is an invitation to Mr. Devin Paris to join us at any time, right, Chair Villagomez?
Oh, definitely, yes.
And we'll be happy to share the link with him, the meeting link. So Devin, join us, feel free, anytime your schedule allows.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.